Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Next Generation of Energy presented by RoseWater Energy Group. I'm Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of the program. Today on the show, we're taking a look ahead to 2023. We're going to talk about some big themes, some of the buzz around the industry, potentially tease some new products. We'll see about that, and also talk about a big initiative, something called RoseWater Energy, that we're gonna explain in a little bit more depth here on the podcast today. So let me welcome Joe Piccirilli, the managing director of RoseWater Energy, to the podcast. Joe, welcome.
Well, thank you, Tyler. And can you believe we're through almost an entire year? Yesterday was January, and here we are. And Thanksgiving is tomorrow, it seems. So like, it's incredible. And it has been, 2022 has been a very, very interesting year, which I think is teeing up what will be an exciting 2023. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. And I think the way to start out is just a little bit of a recap of what went on in 2022, at least from our impression, what we see in the marketplace. As you know, and our audience knows, we've been doing this for 10 years, and we've had the product out there for 6 years. And, when we first started this, power conditioning and power reliability was confusing, sort of an amorphous subject out there. People didn't know the difference between battery backup and power quality and always confused the two. And what I found extremely interesting, particularly in the latter half of 22, is all of a sudden power quality is moving towards center stage. And we did a show in September, the CEDIA show actually. It was in Dallas, and I was shocked at how many people specifically came to that show to talk to us about power quality. It was not, are you doing battery backup? What do you do? It's about power quality. And the show was open from 9 to 5 for 3 days, and we were packed all 3 days. And it was fascinating from our perspective, our dealer perspective out there, that they are finally getting a handle on, okay, I have to ask questions. I have to know about this topic. Now, all of a sudden, it's not us going out and trying to convince people that this is a real business and a real topic. It's, okay, I've been hearing you guys for a while. I've been listening to this. Now I know I have to know. And that's terrific. That's really, really terrific. The other thing that I found interesting is many of the other manufacturers who produce products for homes. We've talked about lighting control and automation and all of those kinds of products that are affected by power quality have now been approaching us to say, okay, how do we, when we are presenting our products, how can we help you incorporate your product in our installation, because it actually improves the performance? So that has been incredibly gratifying for us. I'd like to say we're approaching prime time, but I'm going to say we're now on a major network, so that's hopefully we'll get a better time slot as time goes on. But it's really something, and I think that all of the discussions we have had, you and I have had every month, and what we have been doing around the country has really made a difference. And people, we see it. And now, because it used to be our major markets were concentrated in Florida and California, because power qualities in those two states have been front page news forever. But as our market has expanded, and now we have a reasonable footprint in Colorado and some, in places like West Virginia and Tennessee, and we see the performance, we see our dealers are saying, wait, we used to think power quality was great where we live. Well, it's not, and they begin to realize it. So I think it is very, very important that move was made. So it's great. And that to me was a major, major milestone in 2022. I think part of it was we finally came out of COVID as well, where people all of a sudden wait, I can stick my head up and look around. I don't have a mask on anymore. Maybe I can take in some other data. But it really has been a gratifying piece. So I thought that was great. And that, when we start to look at it, what does that mean for the market for us? And it really does mean an expansion for 2023. We're very optimistic, despite the media's economic gloom and doom for 2023. We are quite optimistic about RoseWater for 2023. We think even if the economy contracts, our market will expand because it is now becoming much more of a focal point in a home. It is becoming, wow, in order for me to enjoy the benefits of everything else I've put in my home, I've got to guarantee the power is good. So we see that we're projecting significant growth despite the possible economic downturn. So that has been terrific. Again, it really allows us, because we are becoming, people are becoming more aware of power quality, it really allows us to expand in the face of economic headwinds. So I'm looking forward to that.
You mentioned a lot of things there, a more well-informed public, more interest from the public, people maybe being able to focus on things outside of COVID-19 for the first time in a couple of years, maybe just even growing understanding of what it means to have better power quality, to have more energy reliability, things along those lines. Do you think it's a combination of all of those factors that has really put you more center stage, more prime time? Is it really a coming together of all of those things, or do you think that there's one factor that maybe stands out above some of the others that has really kind of led to this shift?
That's such a good question, because I've been looking for the silver bullet. Is there one thing? And I can't find it. I really believe that, as you described it, it is a confluence of all of those little micro trends that going on, and people making this, oh, wow, I noticed that. And, people have been talking about battery backup and renewable integration for a long, long time. And the people who have invested in battery backup realize that that doesn't help my power conditioning. That doesn't help my power quality. So there is that little trend in there that says, well, it's not complete. And I think to your point, we see all of those little trends, and people are going, wait, in order to have a complete solution to this problem, we need to add power quality, because people didn't understand the scope of the necessary solution. Battery backup does not create power quality. A generator does not improve power quality. The utility is clearly not improving power quality, but that's a different issue. But I think that kind of realization, and people really sitting down and having time to think, and that's been great. I'd love to say, wow, it's our stellar marketing, or, it's these podcasts.
It's all the podcast.
But, it's just, it really is this, it sort of reached a critical mass.
Yeah.
Where all of these little things got together, and they're going, wait a minute, we need to go talk to power quality people. And fortunately, a lot of them want to talk to RoseWater, so that's really good. Really good.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. Joe, earlier this year, I'm thinking back to some previous podcast episodes, we talked a little bit about supply chain, and supply chain has become a gigantic topic over the last couple of years, really. But we talked a little bit about lead times extending and how that was impacting business. As you look ahead to 2023, how are those supply chain challenges looking now as you project forward? And are those lead times starting to come down a little bit?
God, I hate to talk about this subject only because I don't want to jinx it. But it looks like, we see some easing, and I think we're going to see some easing not only in availability, but I think we're going to see some price pressure easing. And because both of those have been significant problems for us to deal with. Great. Mm-hmm. Not only do I have to raise the price of the product, I still can't get the product. So, it was a terrible, those past 2 years have been every manufacturer across every sector. It's like
double whammy.
Yeah. Not only do I have to raise my price, oh, by the way, you have to order 2 years in advance. And that's just, and I'm not sure what price I can deliver it at in 2 years. So I think that is starting to stabilize. As there is a slowdown in the economy, that will help the price stabilization. It's not the reason I would like to see prices stabilize. I would prefer a healthy economy. And I think people are starting to build their supply chains back. All of a sudden, you look at cars, which is a gigantic industry, and all of a sudden microchips are available. Cars are available. Used car prices, which I think are the leading indicator for cars, are starting to drop. And that means there is more new car availability. Otherwise, those prices would stay up. So I think those are all positive signs for supply chain through 2023. It is not going to be, the floodgates aren't going to open, but we'll see some, a little bit more relief each quarter. We're starting to see it in terms of as we place our orders, and we place our orders, every year out with an adjustment to the following year. It's a trailing. Every time a quarter drops off, we add a quarter, so we're always a year out. And so it's a rolling forecast. And we're starting to see people go, oh, we can meet that number, which is great. Because in the past, they're going, well, we don't really, whatever your forecast is, this is what we can produce. And so you got to live with it, which is pretty terrific. We still see some spot shortages, but I think they're starting to loosen up. So that's a big deal. And I think that for every manufacturer, it's a huge, huge deal. But we'll see it, and that's great. That's a really great trend.
We a big part of the podcast, and something that you and I have talked quite a bit about, has been just educating anybody, right? Industry professionals, dealers, educating the public, educating anybody that'll listen on the benefits and the importance of power quality. And now, heading into 2023, you're looking at launching something called RoseWater University. Tell us a little bit about this and the purpose behind it. And again, coming back to that theme of education, why it's such an important thing.
It's a great lead-in for me, because RoseWater University is one of our most significant 2023 initiatives. And what we have found over the years is, we talked about it earlier, there's always this confusion of what power quality is versus battery backup versus generators. And it is amazing to us how much the misinformation of the past has created all of this confusion and a general, for lack of better phraseology, people get tired of not knowing, so they just shut down. They're just, they start to say, oh no, this is too complicated, because there's, everything I thought I knew, I don't know anymore. So this is way too complicated. I don't know what you're talking about. And we have found that, it is through very targeted education that our dealers become successful. So what we are launching is what will be a 2-day program where we are going to take very specific topics and really simplify them and really create the clarity necessary so that our dealers and our consumers can understand what they're getting. Because, if you're trying to buy a product and you're not clear as an end user what that product is doing, you don't buy it, because what's my benefit here? I don't understand this product, and you're not making it any clearer. So we're going to take a fairly comprehensive approach at RoseWater U, and I'm really excited about it, because we're going to talk about it in segments that deal with the category far more than it deals with RoseWater. So we are going to start, from a technical point of view, we are going to start with, okay, let's talk about power, and let's talk about the limitations of power from a utility, the limitations of power from a renewable, and what those limitations, how those limitations manifest themselves in your day-to-day life. And very clearly point that out, and then talk about how you can take those drawbacks and shortcomings and prevent them from affecting your everyday life. And we'll do it in very, very simple terms, and that will be one piece of it. We will then talk about market segmentation and how this product segments amongst, the types of homes, the types of consumers, and how slowly it will build and come out of its current market segment into bigger ones. From there, we will then talk about not just our solution, but all of the competitive solutions on the marketplace, because from our point of view, you should know, you as a dealer or you as an end user, should know every product available to you, its strengths and weaknesses. And we're going to try to make this, certainly in the first few bits of it, few segments, really agnostic in terms of product. I am also adding, somewhat controversially it seems, but I am going to add a segment that talks about selling. And how do you present this product or this category? And first, it will be very much generic selling. Just what does it mean to present a product to a client? And how do you go about doing it? And I think that selling skills have diminished as the amount, particularly during the COVID years, when the interpersonal dynamics face-to-face was eliminated virtually for 2 years. So that skill set has really been hurt. And when you are presenting a new category that is not inexpensive, you need your skill set. And we're going to have a segment of this that talks about selling skills. And that segment, our dealers can apply, anybody who takes this course can apply that to every product category, not just ours. And I used to teach selling, so this is really good for me. It was during my periods of retirement, which never lasted more than 6 months. It was one of those, a skill. I had written them years ago when I had a retail company. I'd written some selling skill courses, and then I taught them for a while. And it's something I really enjoy doing. And I find that the people who take advantage of this knowledge are able to become successful at virtually every product, because what people don't understand or don't think about is virtually everything you do is creating a sale. Everything. You are selling yourself. Doctors are selling a diagnosis. Everybody is, and it's part of how you build credibility. People think of selling as your typical, like in the Tin Man, your typical aluminum siding selling, but I'm not sure any of our audience is old enough to remember those guys. Or a used car salesman, with just this terrible, terrible view of selling. But
right.
Selling skills are really a good thing. Really a good thing, because it is creating that transaction, being able to present yourself as credible. And what does that mean? And how do you do that? What knowledge do you need? What skill set do you need to become credible? And people don't understand, or many people don't understand, that your credibility is judged as much by the questions you ask as the information you give. Because the prime example is we judge a doctor by his diagnostic skills. How the questions the doctor asks is how you determine whether this guy's got, or this guy or girl's got your best interests in mind.
Right.
And then, then the diagnosis, the presentation, well, no, I trust this guy already or this girl already. So I'm going to buy into the diagnosis. So I'm excited about that piece. And then, of course, the last little bit will be self-serving, and we'll talk about RoseWater and why we believe we are simply the best. So I am very excited about doing that, and I think it will be extremely useful to our dealer base and their skill set. As they improve their skill set, it will become extremely beneficial to the end user, because they will have a great deal of clarity on the subject. So it's going to be really cool.
Well, you sold me on it, so I think that your selling skills are still top notch, and that sounds phenomenal. What do you want people to know as far as do people need to start looking out for registration for this? Should people just keep an eye out for more information throughout the month of December? What do people need to know about how to interact with RoseWater U?
What we're going to do is we're going to roll it out by territory. In fact, we're starting in Texas in January. There will be, through our representation in Texas, there will be invitations coming out. And what we'll do is we will limit the class size in the beginning, and actually probably forever, from 8 to between 8 and 10 people. Because if it gets bigger than that, you really can't. It's too big to teach because you can't role play. You can't get questions asked. And I don't want this to be a lecture. This has got to be an interactive process, because if it becomes a lecture, you're just pushing things into people's brains and then they forget it. So we're excited to have this in small classrooms, and we will be promoting it heavily, giving people lots and lots of lead time to register. So it's going to be, that's how we're going to go about doing it. And look for the first one again. Texas will get the first one around mid-January is when
we're lucky here in the Lone Star State. Absolutely. Well, I don't want to push you too much to reveal too much about what is coming down the pipeline, but I know that you have some new products in the works. So, give us some hints, give us a little teaser on what you've been working on, and maybe some of the purpose behind it.
Okay. I will be purposely vague, but I will talk to you about our initiatives and what we think will happen in 23. One of the issues you have with a product like ours is it does not do well outdoors. It can't be rained on, it doesn't like snow. So we are working on developing a cabinet that will be air conditioned and will also be resistant to water and weather, which will allow our units to be placed outside a house.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds so easy when I say it that way. It's just not. But we think that will open up our market, particularly for retrofit. We're excited about that. We're going through the process now of, okay, what does this cabinet look like? What are the draws? We have to design ventilation systems. And of course, for northern applications, we have to have, in some cases, some heating systems because it gets cold. But we're excited about that because we think that's a huge market expansion. We are developing a product that will be, I think, perfect for condominium living. One of the issues when you're living vertically, condominiums are space challenged, and every square inch of floor space is precious. And we think we have a design now that our engineering team is working on that will allow us to have a unit with significant capacity that will work in multi-unit buildings. So in high-rise condominiums, that could be a very, very large market for us, as you know, living in a growth state like Texas, and certainly along the coast of any state, people are going vertical. And, and based on the price I've seen in condominiums lately, people are going vertical and spending a boatload of money going vertically. So it is, it's part of upscale living these days. And I think that that's going to be a significant product. That is not an easy pull in terms of design, but I am hoping that sometime late in 23, we will introduce that kind of product. We're excited about that. And we have, and although we haven't made it public yet, we have some very large scale products in the 3-phase arena. So it's all exciting stuff. And it all is about, okay, how do we take what we have and have solutions that apply to much different living situations than just a single family home? So we are excited. I'd love to say one of my goals at one point was to build something in the marine industry, but I can't do that in 23. That's way too much. I don't have enough engineering bandwidth for that one. But there is a market globally for power quality on very large boats. and living in Fort Lauderdale, we just had the International Boat Show here, which is a significant event where, there are boats that 100-foot boat is just boring. Now it's 200, it's 250, it's 300. Oh no, I have a 100-meter boat. I'm going, okay.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Could be absconded to be used as a battleship, but but that's what's going on, and that ultimately that may be a good market for us. I'm not sure, but those are the kinds of products we're working on in 23, and we're really excited. And what's great about it is a lot of these product ideas came from conversations with our dealers, and it's sort of RoseWater is listening, and that's we're going to respond to as many of those ideas as we can, based on engineering bandwidth. So,
yeah.
Again, we're looking forward to a really great 23. It's just been really terrific. We're going to expand our employee base. It's been really good. So it's all about you, Tyler. This is all about your podcast. Thank you.
I mean, where would we be without the podcast? No, I'm not going to dislocate my shoulder patting myself on the back, but it's really exciting getting a chance to hear more just about the growth and the exciting things happening at RoseWater. Joe, as we wrap up this episode of the show, what do you want to say in closing? What do you want people to walk away with and carry forward ahead as we begin to look ahead to 2023? We'll have another episode before the end of the year, another episode or two, but what do you want people to walk away with from this?
Well, I think if I were to make a closing statement, I think what I want people to walk away from now is, you're starting to hear about power quality. You're starting to hear about it. This is something that is going to be incredibly important as time goes on. And it is, people like to think about these solutions, they're for the well-heeled, but these solutions within a decade, maybe sooner, will be as common in a house as a dishwasher. That's how important power quality is going to become to modern lifestyle. And that's what I want. I want people to understand that, yes, it may not be something you are considering today, but my forecast says this will be as common as a dishwasher because you will need it to support the infrastructure of your house. Not just entertainment, but the entire infrastructure of your house. So if I could leave them with anything, that's it.
Very, very well put. And I think a great note for us to wrap up on. Joe Piccirilli, Managing Director at RoseWater Energy Group. Joe, thank you once again for joining me here on the podcast, and exciting stuff that we talked about here today. Well, thank you, Tyler. It's always a pleasure. And everyone out there, thank you for tuning into this episode of The Next Generation of Energy presented by RoseWater Energy. We appreciate it very much. Of course, we mentioned and we referenced the previous episodes of the podcast. You can find all of those on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can go find The Next Generation of Energy there, the podcast, and go back and listen to some of the previous episodes. We've covered a lot of really great topics on the show, like we referenced a couple different times here during this episode. So go back and check out those previous episodes and subscribe to stay tuned for the latest episodes for more updates from Joe and the team at RoseWater. So stay tuned for that. But for this episode, for Joe Piccirilli, I'm Tyler Kern. We'll talk to you next time.